Most small business owners don't struggle because they lack effort. They struggle because they lack clarity. My name is Adam Diaz, and I've spent nearly 2 decades building, selling, and advising small businesses. This platform exists for one reason: to bring clarity to chaos and insight to confusion. Only what moves your business forward. Here, we talk real strategy, real numbers, and real leadership decisions that actually make your business profitable. If you care about margin and not just the hype, this podcast is for you. Welcome to Margin. All right, Nathan.
What's up?
Welcome to the podcast.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming on.
Absolutely. Glad to be here.
We met each other probably 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Not like we've been hanging out every day, but I've crossed paths with you several times, and it's been fun to see your company grow. It's probably anybody that's been in the Tri-Cities for any amount of time in business knows the name Spotted Fox.
Which is cool. Yeah.
Which is super cool. And I think a lot of us old timers remember Spotted Fox back when it was the deal thing.
Yep.
It's hard not to hear Spotted Fox and think about like the old Groupon style thing.
Yeah, 100%.
And that's how it started, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So, give us a little bit of your history. What were you doing before Spotted Fox, the Groupon style? And tell me a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, 100%. So, started, I would say, my journey to become a business owner in a short synopsis is, got out of high school, didn't know, I hated school. And it's not that, I didn't pass and all that things. I just, didn't enjoy it. I was more social side, and I was able to negotiate with my teachers on how I could pass, right? And so I figured out I had good negotiating skills. But yeah, so right out of high school, moved to Spokane. Spokane ate me up, spit me out, got in a bad car accident.
Oh no.
Girlfriend broke up with me, life was falling apart. Moved back home, and I was working at P.F. Chang's at the time as like a busser. And I remember there was a guy that was getting served at a table. He had a suit on, similar to like your suit, and I was like looking at him like, like success. So I'm like, I'm here in a back waiter, not really in a career path at that moment, living again with my parents, because in Spokane, I had roommates and all that stuff. But, I was very aggressive of like, how am I going to get to that next phase of my life? Well, I saw this guy in a business suit, and I saw he gave a card to one of the servers, and the server had big personality and things like that, and he gave him a card. And so I went into the back, and I was like, I'm just going to go up and I'm going to introduce myself to that guy, and I'm going to say, hey, if you wanted to hire him, I think I could be someone comparable, right? So he's there with his beautiful wife, having dinner at P.F. Chang's, and I went up to the table and I said, hey, I just wanted to introduce myself. I saw you gave him a card. I have no idea what you do, but I figured I'd come and introduce myself because I'm looking to, start a career in a direction. And he's like, wow. He's like, that's really interesting. He's like, well, you know what? Here's my card, and I like the fact that you just came up to me and talked to me. And so I found out it's like Country Financial, right? And I was like,
all right.
I was like, cool.
Do you remember who it was?
I don't. It was out of, I think it was out of Hermiston. Okay. So, yeah. So anyway, so I ended up, going home. I was so excited. I was like, oh, I got this guy's card. Like, I'm going to call him. Ended up going out and buying my own suit, right? Because I got an interview. Anyways, I ended up basically going through the whole thing, got the job. He just gave me this packet. He's like, hey, we want to start you $3,000 a month, blah, blah, blah. So I was like, $3,000 a month? Like, to me, I'm like back waiter. I'm like, oh my gosh, I did it, And, at that point though, it's kind of funny how things work out, because is it the ideal place that I wanted to, like, personality wise? Like, I never saw myself being an insurance person, right? Like, I've always been more of the creative, aspect side of things. And so, I was telling my mom ended up, she was selling a house to a guy whose name's actually Ken Olson, who is a real estate agent. She was selling a house to him. She's a real estate agent herself, Denise Robertson. There's a little plug.
Heck yeah.
But anyways, I was, or she had mentioned to Ken, she's like, hey, so my son just got this job offer at Country Financial, blah, blah. Well, at that time, Ken was working at the radio stations as a manager. And Ken goes, well, if he's going to do that job, then he should just come apply for us, right? Oh. And so then I got an interview there. I actually went into the office, did like a working interview. Same thing, showed up in a suit, just super, super professional and dapper. And I was I was like 19.
Okay.
19-ish, 20, I think at the time. So anyways, I ended up not getting the job, but instead of just totally giving up, I decided, you know what, I'm going to send an email to the hiring manager, which was the general manager at the time. Ken was the sales, she was the general manager. I'm just going to send an email and say, thanks so much for the opportunity. If things change and you guys are looking to hire somebody in the future, I'd really appreciate it if you guys reach out. 3 weeks go by or whatever, and I'm starting to take the country financial path, starting to do all the things, right? And then I get an email back and it's like, hey, we'd like to, invite you in and hire you, right? And so then I made the switch of like, okay, I'm going to go work for the radio stations.
Wow.
Yeah, so I started working for the radio stations, and that was in 2008. And so imagine...
Great year for everybody.
Yeah, and imagine, like, I think it was like, I started in 2007, then 2008 hit. But imagine going into that world, not knowing anything about really the economy and how things were affected and things like that, right? I was very green on that side.
Sure.
But I went out and I just hustled and just went into all these businesses and got told no every day, and not making sales. And I finally got a few sales, and that went on. And I found the reason why I was getting sales is I was going in with ideas, right? Of like, hey, you should run a radio spot like this, and came in just like very creative. So I ended up building my client list. And then I got Gold's Gym when Gold's Gym first came in.
Oh yeah.
And, obviously we're talking in the 2008 era. So at that time, the staff in the radio station was kind of negative, right? Like they were losing clients were not spending enough, blah, blah, blah. It was tough for me to get new clients. I was on a commission plan that kept weaning down to where it was like, eventually I would be full commission.
Right.
And so I was working at Gold's Gym, and I was like, the vibes were awesome. The people were awesome. The sales guys were making tons of money. And at that point I was like, you know what? I'm pretty young to be in like this career where it's like this kind of people are depressed right now. And, it's not a very good culture. And so I decided, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to switch. So I went and actually sold gym memberships at Gold's Gym for, a few years at least. Helped open the Kennewick one, and then the Richland one we'd opened. And then after that, I ended up finding Spotted Fox deals. They listed a job opening, they listed a job opening, and I actually told my manager about it, and he's like, what, they're hiring? Like, that's just like Groupon. Like, I wasn't going to go to it. So they're like, oh, or he's like, I'm going to interview for that job. So funny story. Wow. The manager interviewed for the job. I interviewed for the job. I ended up getting the job. He didn't end up getting the job. Yeah. So, right. And that's, because I had experience in the radio days, they had a similar platform that they used. It was called Just Pay Half or something like that. And I sold a ton of them, right? It was a very similar concept to Spotted Fox deals, where it's like 50% of the, profit goes to the business, 50% goes to the radio stations. The difference is like they would give them radio ads as well on top of that. And so anyways, I got hired by Spotted Fox, worked for them for a few years, and we were the top market here in the Tri-Cities. And so I was sales, that's all I did was sales, and built it up here and got some of the biggest restaurants on there, Bob's Burgers, Fujiyama, all of those. And eventually had the opportunity to buy it. The owner was like trying to get out of it because, Groupon, the models just kind of started slowing down. And I was like, well, we're still doing good. So I ended up buying the company. Which, disclosing price would be okay, I guess, because it was pretty reasonable, right? I bought it for $70,000.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. And I self-financed it through the owner and paid it off in the first year. So,
there you go. What a deal. Yeah, a good deal.
Yeah. So it's, that part of the journey was awesome. I ran the deal side, and then ended up getting an employee eventually, had kids.
So I want to pause right there and dive into that moment, because I think one thing that's interesting to people is taking the leap.
Yeah.
And everybody's always curious about it. I would say like a lot of people dream about it, eventually do it.
Yeah.
A lot of people dream about it and never do it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And you're at this point, I'm assuming this must have been late 20s, mid to late 20s.
Yeah. I was probably like 22, 23.
Oh, so early 20s.
Yeah.
So this is still early in the journey. You're taking that leap, you
Yeah.
know, kind of head first, you know, and $70,000, you know, maybe that doesn't seem like a lot of money now, but to a 22-year-old,
Yeah.
20 years
That's
ago,
stressful.
that's a lot of money
Yeah.
and it's dead. And you got this, you know, pressure from the guy that you're paying off, who you
Yep.
promise you're going to give him the money.
Yeah.
And I guess like, the reason I want to pause there is say, what was going through your mind? And again, maybe it's different compared to some of our listeners, because you were young
Yeah.
and maybe more risk tolerant than a lot of people.
Still
Pretty risk tolerant, right? But like, how did your life change going from I work for this to now I own this?
Yeah. No, it was pretty wild. You know, I had actually just gotten married.
Oh, okay. So you make things even more complicated, right?
Yeah. I'd just gotten married. You know, so just gotten married, I think a couple of years before, or a year before that. And then we were pregnant, right? And just bought a new house.
Okay.
And so, yeah, my brain.
And you were 22, 23 at this time?
Yeah.
Okay. So you were doing a lot of life stuff.
Yeah.
At what culture now says is a pretty young age.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Yeah.
Married, kid, house, buying a business.
Yep. And so a lot of pressure, 100%. I mean, my thought process on it was, hey, I'm already doing it. And if I don't do this, what am I going to do? I'm going to go find another job. Essentially, I'm going to get fired from this job. What's going to happen, right? And so it was more or less it was a great way. So would I have done this myself? I would think I'd be an entrepreneur in the future, but I think this really kickstarted it because it was kind of like a forced entrepreneurship, right? Like It wasn't like I was out like, I'm going to start this own business and do this, right? It was really like, hey, I'm doing really good at this. And then very scared, I would say, of like the what's to come. I'll be honest. So like once I took it over, I did realize, wow, I was doing most of the work, right? Like, it was a one-man show, getting deals, creating the deals, doing that side. It was more or less like the admin side. And I didn't have a team, right? Like I ended up getting a few employees later, but yeah, definitely. I think that, still to this day, I advocate, for people to be, their own boss. And there's a lot of really smart people out there that are afraid to do it. And I always tell them, like, honestly, like you could probably do better than me. I was like, you're smart in these areas. I was like, I just took the risk. And, if you're determined enough and, you just don't, you don't stop. If you fail on one thing, you keep moving. Mm-hmm. I'm like, yeah, things are always going to change. We have AI now, we have all this stuff, and it's like, you never have to quit adapting. But
I like to think about, especially when you're taking big risks in life, diversifying the risk that you take.
Yeah.
So that when you do fail, you're not losing everything.
100%. Yeah.
And this is, sometimes it's hard to do because sometimes an opportunity knocks and it's like, well, I've got to drain my 401k, sell my house, buy this restaurant. The restaurant has 30% chance of succeeding. But if it does, boom. And some people have that really high risk tolerance. I like to look at those big decisions and say, okay, if this goes terribly wrong,
correct. Yeah.
How much of my life is going to crumble around me?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, when you're younger, sometimes that has to be more of an all-in decision. You just got to go for it and see what happens.
Yeah.
But thinking of that time of your life, was that, would you say, one of the more stressful times in your life?
Yeah, 100%. Like, especially the first year, I was very determined to get the previous owner paid off. Sure. Big mistake, honestly. Let me tell you why. He, very successful, owns a furniture business as well. He's an angel investor. He was just a very smart business person. And so little did I know, now knowing, I'm like, I should have paid, the interest. I should have kept him on a little bit longer because he had interest to make sure that I was going to succeed. Not saying that I didn't, but he was a huge part of my success, right? Because I was able to bounce things and he would give me like, well, you could definitely go that route, but let me just, show you a few things that has happened to me in the past, right? So I had a mentor essentially there, and we're still great friends. But it is one of those things, obviously, as soon as I pay him off, it's like, he's not calling me asking how things are going anymore. There's no proactive side on that. So
yeah, because people always act on incentive, right? So
yeah,
when you move that incentive, then, you're getting the altruism version rather than the financially motivated version.
Exactly.
Which both can be good, but they're different.
Yeah, 100%. So yeah, I mean, and then once it was running smooth, I was able to, we were had our so Lindsay then had the baby after that, right? My wife. And so then after that, I was like, I was a dad and waking up and it was miserable, in the middle of the night, colicky baby, never sleeping, right? So I ended up actually having a good friend that I hired, and I just took him through the ropes, taught him how to do it. And then he was actually running the business for a while. Yeah. And, to share a little bit about that, it's great, but then it's like, what do I do? It's like now all of a sudden purpose, I have a smaller business, so I don't have an office to go to. I'm at my house. All of a sudden you start losing sense of purpose on that. So hence the starting the video side, right? So
that's when you started the video side.
Yeah, just kind of tinkering around, and I got a drone for Christmas. I think that's what started it all. I'm like, this is awesome.
And that's probably back before drones were, $2.99 in Costco, right? Those were.
Yeah, it was the original DJI.
The original.
Pro, 4 Pro. So it wasn't the first. It was like, but it was in that first lineup. So
nice.
Yeah,
Do you remember how much that cost back then?
Gosh, I want to say it was like $1,200.
Yeah, pretty expensive.
Yeah. So that's kind of what kickstarted it. And it was actually funny because real estate, right? Like that's what my mom real estate. And I'm like, oh, I'll just go do this. I have a successful business running itself at this point. I'm going to go start doing this on the side. And, so I started creating, drone videos I was like one of the first, in that mix that was doing drone photos and videos for clients.
Well, and I have to say, because I remember this specifically, is I think you were the one that hiked Badger and snowboarded down with the drone footage.
Yep.
And that got a lot of views. Yeah. That was a year like snow had shut everything down. Yeah. It was just crazy. And you're snowboarding down Badger. And then I think eventually they had to make a rule, no more snowboarding down Badger, right?
Yeah. Yeah, they actually, the Friends of Badger, they wrote on there and they were okay with it. There's people that were upset with it, but at the end of the day, I did not expect it to go that wild.
Was that the drone that did that shot? Or
yeah.
Was that
well, I actually had a friend that, but he used, I think it was mine or his drone. He had one of the same ones. But yeah, so he helped film it going down.
Nice.
So, yeah.
Very nice.
And then I sent it in the news, and then that's when it just kind of blew up.
That's fun. So then let's get back into the timeline. How long were you running Spotted Fox when you kind of started the whole media side of things?
So, we did the video. I did the video side, and that was kind of a separate company. At the time, it was called Upsky Marketing. And so we were more or less, it was a lot of real estate.
And mostly almost all drone, not other types
No, we ended up, because clients for real estate, obviously, they're like, can you take pictures of the inside? Can you take, video of the inside? So then it turned into like I was doing all of it, doing everything. Okay. Yeah. And so we did that for a while, and then we ended up getting some more business jobs, and that's when we started kind of gearing ourselves towards like the business side. And then I met my business partner, Brad, who's now my business partner. And so he had a company called Another Brad Idea that was like website design and SEO.
Website design and SEO.
Yeah. And so we ended up meeting through, funny enough, the guy that I had working for me. That's mine, I think.
Oh, is it yours? Okay,
yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, but the guy that I had working for me for Spotted Fox at the time, he was actually getting another website built for himself. He was starting his own business. And so I met Brad through him. And then we ended up sharing a few jobs. Like he needed videos for his website. I had clients that, we were shooting videos for that needed videos for, or websites, as well. And so we were trading across jobs and, eventually ended up becoming partners.
That's pretty neat. So what year did that happen?
Official partnership was like 2019, but we worked for about like a year and a half, 2 years together. I convinced him to like, he had a membership at Connect Workplace over here in Kennewick. And I was like, jonesing, finally out of the office. We got this office because we had our second child coming. And so my wife's like, hey, you can't just be in the house, with Evan editing videos and stuff in and out, like I'm going to have the baby. And so anyways, ended up getting an office space, and that's really where the synergy started building. But anyways, so we had a little tiny office. I'm not even joking, like 2-person max, right, at Connect
Standing.
Workplace. Yeah, literally. And so we have pictures of it. It's pretty funny. And I convinced Brad. So I'm like, hey, if we can get Brad, to share an office with us, we're already kind of doing work together, then we could get a bigger office, to where, just feel a little bit better. And so I convinced him to come in on it with us and just, basically like he'd pay part of it and we'd pay the other part, not partners yet. And just kind of see, kind of live together, right? before we got married.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So we did that. And then, in 2019, we officially decided to partner. And that's when I got rid of the UpSky marketing, combined it into the Spotted Fox digital marketing. And then he also came in to Spotted Fox digital marketing, left another Brad idea behind.
Kept the better name of the two, right?
Yeah, we just figured.
Let's just be honest.
It was a household name. If it was another Brad idea, he's on the hook for everything, which might be nice every now and then. But yeah, so just kind of shifted over. Spotted Fox, great name, a daily deal company. Who would have thought, right? But it did give a sense of like rebranding, like you could rebrand it to anything, right?
Sure.
So
and it was already a name that was well known
Correct.
in the Tri-Cities, right? It's everybody,
Yep.
and that's the interesting thing about that brand is, everybody knew it.
Yeah.
Whatever you felt about it or thought about it, you knew it.
Yeah.
And
no,
so
100%.
you had a little bit of brand recognition right out of the gate.
Yep.
And then people probably even to this day, at some occasion, like, although I'm sure it's less and less, are like, Spotted Fox, isn't that you guys still doing the deals?
Yeah.
Right? Like,
So a funny story about that is, during COVID, we ended up shutting down Spotted Fox deals, like just discontinuing more or less, right?
COVID's what killed that?
Really, yeah. Think about it, right? So who's our target clients that we worked with was restaurants, spas, salons. They're all closed, right? And so what we did is I reached out to all the customers that we'd done deals with before. I actually had some help. John Patterson, I believe, kind of helped on that. We had a few other people that did, but the idea is like giving back, so we ran these deals at the very end to give back to the clients. So that way it's like they got like 90% and then we just kept 10% just to cover like, my sales guy or whatever.
Yeah.
But it was like, hey, we want to help. Businesses are struggling. Restaurants can't have anybody. Nobody can have anybody come in. So we ran these deals and we put stipulation. It's like, hey, if you buy it now, you're helping the business, but you can use it when we open, right? Which we were thinking July.
Right.
And so essentially that was like our see you later to the Spotted Fox deals. But the funny thing is like, why the Spotted Fox deals, why we decided to do that wasn't just because of COVID, right? Like it had started to taper off. And, looking back, I kind of realized why. And that, in my perspective of looking at it, is like, the deal side for Groupon, all that stuff was kind of founded like 2008-ish era, right? Like really when it started because people didn't have money to spend on advertising, right? The economy was kind of rough. And so with the deals, you could not have to spend money. You get some revenue back, right? They do all the advertising. So all the businesses were doing it. People were buying because they wanted to save money. As the economy got better, less businesses needed to run deals. Less customers needed to buy coupons.
And the thing is, those deals were aggressive.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's why I think people loved it. Is you can get a coupon book now and it's buy one appetizer and two full price drinks and get one drink 20% off.
Yeah.
And it's like, what? This is like 30 cents on this. Like,
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And it's like Spotted Fox deals were usually 50% off,
Yeah.
right?
50 to 90% off.
50.
Yeah.
So you were getting really good deals on things you loved.
Yep.
And, that was really attractive to people because I think when you had if something you loved came through Spotted Fox, it was like, oh, I better buy some because this is a good deal.
Yeah,
or it would
100%.
Definitely give you incentive to try a new restaurant.
Exactly. And that was kind of the goal.
Yeah. So you think, my question for you was going to be, you thinking about bringing it back? Is there does that ever pop into your mind when you're laying in bed?
We have an email list, who knows if it's still fresh, right? Because I haven't used it in a while, but like 25,000.
See how many of those are at AOL.com and
Yeah,
I'll tell you how fresh it is.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. So we have like 25,000, a list of 25,000 people's emails, right?
Oh, wow. Have you sold that list yet? Can you say publicly?
Yeah, no, we haven't. Yeah. So we haven't, it just kind of went dormant, but it'd have to be, if I did, it would definitely be a pivot of that current model and obviously an update. And if it's needed, right? So I think that it may have changed, but yeah, if the market if we just went through a collapse or something, it's like, that's the one thing that people needed to do. And restaurants were like, I need to run deals. And customers were like, we need to buy deals. Yeah. I'm sure that we would, figure something out to start it back up. But
get it back going.
Yeah. Like I said, it would be like 2.0 version to where, it'd be a little bit different.
I mean, part of it is I taught economics for years, and they talk about markets and market entry and barriers to entry, and basically profit drives entry, especially when the barriers are low. And the barriers are fairly low for a business like that.
Yeah.
And there's enough companies that have done it. And the big question is, well, where are they?
Yeah.
And so if there's nobody doing it, it's probably a bad idea to start doing it.
100%.
Unless you know something that everybody else doesn't know.
Yeah.
Because if it was a good idea, Groupon would be doing it.
100%.
Or if it's a really good idea, Google and Facebook would be doing it, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah. And I saw the writing on the wall. I mean, I followed Groupon. I followed Living Social. I bought stock in Groupon just to watch it go down, right? So literally,
Isn't Groupon even around anymore? I mean,
it is.
Are they kicking somewhere?
Yeah, it is, but it's very, it's more touristy and, very selective. Things that are very low cost, versus like, just going to your restaurants.
I just feel like I'm kind of tired of deals in general, because I feel like no deals are real deals, and nobody trusts a deal anymore.
Yeah.
Even this whole idea of Black Friday.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Prices get raised just so they can be brought down.
Yep. That's wild.
We don't, people say 20% off. Is it really 20% off?
Yeah.
Or is this actually the most you've ever charged anyone for it?
Yeah.
Or the deals are just so razor thin that it's like, again, you see a lot of these restaurant deals that come in, the kids' books that they sell for the school.
Yeah.
And it's literally like, buy 2 entrees, or buy an entree and 2 drinks and get 1 entree free.
Yeah.
And I kind of get it, but it doesn't feel quite like the value is there on those
100%.
deals.
100%.
And I read something a while back too that said that literally TV companies make actually different TVs that are of worse quality to sell on Black Friday. And like blows my mind.
Yeah.
Like, people get excited about buying cheap TVs on Black Friday, but they're literally cheaply built.
Yeah.
And that's disappointing, to say the least.
Yeah. No, it's the markets, they see opportunities, right? Of, oh, well, people are going to go out and buy, so we could just give them this. But obviously, same thing, we're figuring it out. And so, I think that's one of the things that, like the Black Friday things, really people are starting, that's why things are online. And I'll give you an example of like the 3D printer. I bought a 3D printer for my kids before Black Friday. And my wife's like, why'd you do that? We should have waited until Black Friday. And I'm like, well, true, but who cares? We'll just price match it, right? I went on to look for that same printer. It was gone. So I don't know if it was just gone for me, but then I found out it was just under a different SKU. So they didn't put, so the Pro in front of it. They used something else, exact same printer. And so it was like $25 off, right? So we sent it in and we got our $25 off. But, just kind of that shady stuff.
So here's a question for you. We talked about this sort of thing in business school all the time. This is not the way we were going to take this podcast, but I'm curious because marketing, especially in this day and age, feels like manipulation.
Yeah.
It really does.
Yeah.
It can almost feel like deception.
Yeah.
Right? Strategies can cross lines really quick and really easy. Spotted Fox now is one of the main umbrellas as a marketing company. Is that what would you call Spotted Fox? What would you say? Spotted Fox is
we're a digital marketing agency.
Marketing agency.
Yeah, focused towards growth. So we're really leaning into the growth, helping established businesses grow, right? So,
okay.
Before we were really kind of doing a little bit of everything. And now I think we found our secret sauce to specific, home service businesses or just service businesses we're, B2C more or less. Uh-huh. And, building redoing websites and helping revamp branding, logo, and then going to market and helping get more customers is really what we focus on. And then, the content creation side, video production, photography.
So then let me circle back around and ask the question. How do you guys handle the ethical part of marketing with saying, we want to get new customers, we want to make compelling deals, but we don't want to deceive, trick, or
correct, yeah,
mislead anyone, right?
Yeah.
How do you manage that balance?
I think with our marketing is extremely transparent. We don't use any trickery per se. Like I'll be honest, I have noticed, you're just TikTok, like some of the strategies they're using right now with influencer marketings, it's getting very gray because you're able now to create a bot, right? And create an account for that bot and using like programs like HeyGen to create your own avatar. Or not, I shouldn't call it a bot, but essentially it kind of is, right? But it's an avatar that you put in what you want it to say. So it could be like customer review or whatever for products or whatever. It's not even a real person. And somebody could see it on their feed though and be like, oh, that's really cool, and click through, right? So that part 100% deceiving, because it's not a real use case. It's just them manipulating like the fact that they can have this person, and who knows, even real people do it. But at the end of the day, they're really gearing towards using AI like generated things, especially TikTok and things like that. So those are things that you definitely have to watch out for, and go to their website, do some research. But yeah, as far as like our side, like we are very, I would say, not old school, but definitely like think of the customer as well. We have the customer in mind as much as we do have the business in mind. So, if we partner with a great business, like we know that the customer should be happy, right? So like making sure that they have a good customer support and how they handle their leads coming in, things like that is a big deal for us, because, if we go out and do all this marketing and then it's a bad fit for the customer, and the customers have a bad experience, they don't get the deals, whatever, the business comes back to us and they're upset. So I'm like,
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's a tricky question, and it's just a tricky age we're in. I remember having a conversation with my son because he wanted to be a video game developer, like a lot of young boys in this day and age, right? But I kind of sat him down and had to have the conversation, and we kind of limited a lot of even the amount of time he could play video games, because I said, Bud, people are designing these games to completely encapsulate your entire life and attention, and they're making them as addictive as drugs or alcohol or anything else. These things will destroy your life if you're not careful, and they've destroyed a lot of people's lives. And so be careful, let's be wise about how we engage in video games. But two, there was the next question of, okay, let's say you grow up and you still want to be in this space, which is possible. He's artistic and computery and those sorts of things. So I said, well, let's say you want to be in this space. How are you going to compete? Because you're either going to have to create games that are more addictive than the current ones, or you're going to create games that are more wholesome and less addictive. But guess what? It's not going to perform against the addictive game, right? So they're creating games now. Like when we were kids, probably it was like Nintendo and Super Nintendo, maybe Nintendo 64 when we were high school-ish, right? But you could only play a Super Nintendo game for about an hour, and you're kind of burned out on it. Like you're ready to go kick a ball or play some Legos, or you naturally, it hit its limit. But now with games like Fortnite or Minecraft, you can sit behind that game for 10 hours. And the way they've designed it just draws you in deeper and deeper and deeper. And again, for him, it's become big moral questions. Like, how would you ever compete in this space? Because you're either going to do more evil than what they're doing now, and you have to be okay with it, or you're not going to do it and you're going to lose. And he ended up moving off that idea with that conversation. I don't want to say marketing is exactly the same, because it's not. But I think it's an interesting kind of parallel, right? Because you're having to compete against people that are playing underhanded, right?
Well, and especially when you're talking national, right? When you go local, a lot different. So we work a lot with local, and so you're not going to be able to deceive and do all that things, like the reviews are real, all those things. You go national, and all of a sudden it's like, well, who knows, right? So that's definitely one thing that I've seen. I think on the local side though, like when it comes down to the marketing, I feel like the agencies here locally that service businesses do a really good job on representing, and I don't feel like there's any false, but definitely on the national scales. And back to your point on like the video games being addictive. I mean, let's be honest, like it's technology in general, right?
Well, sure.
So it's your TikTok, your Instagram feeds, all of it. And
all of it.
I believe we're living in the wild, wild west right now.
You think we're still in the wild, wild west?
100. Well, here's the thing is like, there's a lot of things that were locked down with the internet, and like how, parental control, all these things, right, that were created because of the internet. And we've been able to like hone in on it. That took time, right? And now we've opened up this whole AI and like all these other avenues, that you could go in, and there's not these guardrails. There's no guardrails.
I would agree we're in the Wild West of AI.
Yeah.
I mean, I think people keep making all these predictions about AI, and it drives me nuts because you just have to go back and watch the predictions about computers or internet from the 80s or 90s. And you can see how hilarious they are.
Yeah.
Right? And people had no idea what the internet was going to become,
Yeah.
what the cell phone was going
Correct.
to become, what social media would do to us.
Yeah.
And even, I mean, the big example is AI should be making us so much smarter, right? Because we've got so much more information and accessible, and it can review our essays and answer any question about anything. And it's like having 1,000 PhDs in your pocket.
Yeah.
People would have said the same thing about the internet, right? I remember I was homeschooled. My mom had me do this, we did a workbook called Information Please.
Yeah.
And it was basically how to learn from all the different types of resources out there and how to cite them, how to find them and cite them. So, because if you wanted to learn about a capybara before there was the internet, how would you do it?
Yeah.
You know,
we could somebody with a book.
We could get look at an encyclopedia. We could go to the library. We could, look up these different journals. There's scientific journals, right? You could talk to somebody, right? You could call a zoo, like there's just, but now if you want to know about a capybara, you Google it.
Yeah. Super easy.
Yeah. And yet we're not really smarter for the internet. I'm not noticing that.
No, it's a tool.
We've taken that power and we've completely moved it towards entertainment.
Yeah.
Right. Which makes me inclined to think we'll probably end up doing the same thing with AI. And, hopefully there's some people that do good in the world and use it for the better. Yeah. But most of us are probably just going to be driven towards AI entertainment things that are just all that much more addictive and all that much better.
Yeah. Well, I think everything kind of morphs with it, right? Like it's simplicity and things that, kind of like, well, I used to have to, we had corded phones, right? It's like, okay, so it does the same thing. It's just easier. You could take it more so it's thinking about it in a framework like that. And I think for AI, like you were talking about the internet, the predictions and things like that, people are coming up with all these use cases. Are they all like, oh, I'm going to use that? Or is it just like, okay, well, that would have taken me this much time and I don't really care if I have to do that. So it's like all these use cases of like, what you can use it for. But no, I think it's definitely going to help in some aspects. I think it does threaten some jobs. I don't think that it could ever take away from the personal human touch ever. And so, talking to my kids, it's like, hey, make sure you're good customer service and personable and, because that's an asset that no one can ever take away from you.
There's a lot of things that we're still going to want person-to-person interaction. I think we're really far from robots replacing human interaction. The other thing that I'll believe it when I see it is AI doing anything truly original or creative.
Yeah, yeah, because it's using our thoughts.
It is. It's melding all these large language models together and saying, okay, let's take the best out of it. And the argument is, well, isn't that what you and I do? Yeah. We're just regurgitating anything we've ever read through grade school and all the way up in teaching. But I don't think so. I think there's something innately human that is, I would even say on a spiritual level, makes us able to create.
Oh, 100%.
And I don't think that exists in AI.
No.
And the problem is when you get talking with anybody that's an AI enthusiast or an AI optimist, they just say, well, eventually it'll be able to do it. And I'm like, well, how do we know that?
Yeah.
Because it certainly isn't doing it right now.
Yeah.
It's great at pattern recognition. It's great at putting language together. It's great at helping refine creative thoughts that you give it.
Yeah.
If you write a book or you'll say you just write an essay and it was your creative idea, I've found that AI is very helpful to say, you know what, that's good, but that sentence is out of place. Yeah. Or that word, really, this would be a better word, right?
Yeah.
It can refine human creativity, but if you just tell it, make an essay, it's going to be garbage.
Yeah, 100%.
It's not something, I think we've had this conversation with blog writing.
Yeah.
Right? Is, yes, we can have AI crank out a lot of blogs, but there's something about the human experience that we still can know that feels plastic.
Correct.
That feels fake. And AI and certainly the internet can know too, right?
Yep.
So, shameless plug for you, right? You guys are still using humans.
Yeah, we actually, we are experiencing with helping it come up with the ideas, but refining it, right? And so at the
using
end
it as a tool, not the thing, right?
Correct. And that's the biggest thing is especially in our industry, right? Like we are extremely in that space of like, we need to adapt to make sure, it's not 100% going in the direction with everything, But think about it as like, hey, the internet started, right? And you have these owners back in the day that never did anything online. They rely on the phone book, right? And then eventually they wake up and they're like, how are we dead? And all my competitors are doing better, right? So there's things that, for me to be a good business, consultant to my clients is to advise them on things where it's like, hey, you need to be doing this.
Right.
Or at least have your toes dipped in it, because if it is something that in the future is a big shift, you don't want to be left behind. You want to make sure you're doing enough to keep up, because if you don't have a website right now, like back to the internet, right?
Right.
And you're still, everybody has a website, right? And so what are those things that are going to stick in the AI world? I don't think, like you said,
the irony of it is you need a website, but really nobody looks at them anymore.
Yeah.
You need it.
Well, yeah,
but we rarely look at them.
Yeah.
How often are you looking at other businesses' websites?
No, you're right. I think so. One of the biggest tools there is, I think it depends though, right? So it's definitely like, for me, more of like the end of the buying journey of like, hey, I need this. And then you're going through and you're like reading, the website is used as like a resume of like, does this company fit my need, right? Because I already know that I'm going to buy, but I'm looking at resumes now. So I use the websites more as like, oh, this one looks like, they're very, this way. And no, I don't think that they'd fit culture,
Sure. That's true. That's true.
And so using it in that way, 100%, but then also Google uses it, right? So like,
no, that's what I'm saying.
That's what helps you be found.
It gets used, but a lot of times, right now what's hard is like with a Google search, that AI summary, I can't remember the stat I heard the other day, but I want to say it's like something like 50% of people, when they Google something, are just reading that AI summary, even if it's for a recommendation for like, hey, what's a lawn service company you recommend in the area?
Yep.
AI will pop something up.
Yeah.
But so where is AI getting that information?
Website.
The website. So you need it, but a lot of people will not even look at it and they'll still give you a call.
Yeah. Biggest thing is reviews, right? So customer reviews. So making sure you have reviews on your website, because when it goes to scrape your website, it's taking personality, it's taking like things that you ask. And if you use ChatGPT and the internet, it starts understanding like, oh, here's things that you like, right? Like we want to serve you the best way we can. So based on your personality, like you'd probably fit here, right? So if you have reviews on your website and they're talking about one specific pain point, every review's talking about it, and you type in that, what's the best lawn care company? It's going to know like, oh, well, I know you have this pain point, so we're going to recommend this one, right? It's going to be different for everybody, which is crazy.
Yeah.
And so it's really figuring out like who's your ideal customer and then, getting reviews from them. So it's pretty wild. It's on that side, we do, have started doing like the GEO, the generative, SEO basically to help.
GEO.
Yeah.
Wow, this is a new term to me. Generative engine optimization?
Yes. And so it's more or less making sure, it's for large language models so that when they scan your website, you have, I'm not the SEO expert to be honest, but I understand it. So there's metadata that would be, or schema that would, that's the technical word, right?
Okay.
That basically it's able to read and say, hey, this is the important things that you should take into consideration when you're going to give an AI response.
Okay.
And so there's a lot of that, right? And so at the end of the day, it's playing the game, right? So we're all just trying to make it, and to make it, it's like you got to play the game, right, and not be left behind.
Yeah, no, 100%. Well, I was just talking about that with my video guy Marcos, because I'm trying to create basically a brand here, a personal brand, and become a business influencer.
Yeah.
When people keep asking me, what am I doing here? Like, what am I trying to create? I think most people are assuming I want to be a consultant or a business coach, and I do want to do some of that. But really what I'd like to do is get into more of the public speaking and then high level business coaching.
Nice.
That's really what I want to do, which really comes from more of being a business influencer. So the example I've been using is everybody knows about like fitness influencers, right? Yeah. Or even lifestyle, like outdoors influencers. Yeah. We see those on Instagram and stuff all the time. Think that, but for business.
Yeah.
Right.
No, that makes total sense.
And so as we're thinking about this, I can put out content that I think is intelligent and helpful, but intelligent and helpful content is not going to get clicks and likes if it's not formatted in a very specific way.
Yeah.
And it's kind of the necessary evil of you have to play the game if you want to be in the space. Yeah. Like you just have to, because you're not going to just say smart things and have people listen to you. Like there's certain concepts even that's like, I would love to talk about this, but it takes a minute and we get 10 seconds.
Yeah.
Right. So yes, there's ways we can hook people into listening to this podcast or whatever, like, but you've got to have a hook out there, something that's going to bring people into the longer form content.
Yeah.
Even if the long form content is like a minute or 2 minutes.
Yeah. 100%.
And I've noticed now that I'm looked at other business influencers, there's a handful that I just despise.
Yeah.
Because all their brand is hooks.
Yeah.
And it's
like clickbait.
It's all clickbait. Yeah. It's all hooks and clickbait, and it's all soulless. And the content, like if you only saw one video, like, yeah, that's pretty good, but it ends up being recycled over and over and over. And I could name you several. I probably won't because they've got thousands, hundreds of thousands of people watching their podcast, and we'll have like 10. But so they're doing something right. That's cool. But their stuff is so soulless. Like, and figuring out, like, I want to put out information to the world that feels good and that is right and is helpful and will help people's businesses grow. Yeah. But again, you've got to do some of that clickbait. You got to do some of the high hook. Yeah. You know, controversy, right? Like if you're not doing any of that to go with your value content, you just won't get a reach. You won't get an audience.
Yeah. Biggest thing is the things that people aren't talking about, right? That it's like, oh, I don't think we should talk about that. It's like, no, those are the things that people want to know more about, right?
Right.
So
yeah, thinking about like a political commentator, right? It's like they're always just dive. That's how political commentators get popular. They just dive into the things that everybody wants to know, like all the drama. Yep. Right.
No, so. But I mean, there's that. But then, you know, just thinking like, I love John Maxwell, right? Does John Maxwell have crazy hooks? No. You know, he doesn't have anything that's out there that's like that I've seen, right? But I love listening to his podcast, and I think that he just brings more of that holistic like approach, but real life, right? Like breaks it down into like, you know, the real struggles. It feels like when I listen to his podcast, you know, they just have segments of like, when I was this, here's an example, you know, just putting it into kind of like a sermon, you know, and he was a pastor back in his day, so it makes sense. But, you know, those tidbits of like, put this in a different, you know, saying it in a different way is kind of a cool way to do it.
I'm curious, you know, because John Maxwell has been so big since before probably the internet was even around, right? Yeah. So he didn't have to grow through this.
Yeah, he already had it.
Yeah, and I do think, as I've been studying it at least a little bit myself, there's even a shift in what type of content you have to put out there because once you already have authority established, I think you do have the freedom to just
100%.
to add value, and people stop and say, oh, that's John Maxwell. Yeah. Oh, that's Alex Hormozy. Yeah. You know, like, oh, these are people I should listen to already just by the nature of you got a strap of tape across your nose. You must be smart.
Well, I mean, look at Joe Rogan. I mean, Joe Rogan's a perfect example of like, he brings interesting people on that it's like, oh, we got him on their podcast. Right. And so who doesn't want to watch Elon Musk go freely talk on a podcast, you know, and see what comes out of his mouth, you know? So it's like, but then who benefits from that, right? Like whose podcast are they on, right? So there's like the influencer of like, you know, what's popular, I want to get them on my podcast.
Right.
So
right. There's definitely, a lot of that. So it's a whole new game and thing that I didn't even necessarily quite understand when I got into it. But now I'm going to kind of dip my toe in the water and see if I'm having fun with it. Yeah. But Marcos and I just recorded my first video that we actually, I wrote it, the script and designed the whole video with the hopes that this would be a video that would stop a scroll and then hopefully get somebody to comment a word and to try and get like engagement so that it's a growth-based video. It wasn't built for the information. It was built to have growth. Yeah. And hopefully a little bit of information too, right?
Yeah. No, 100%.
And so I'll be curious as we start integrating some of that in. Yeah. How does that change the brand? Does that help, you know, my popularity grow so that then we can again have more access to, you know, we'll chop some of this up and it'll be interesting and helpful to people.
100%. I mean, that's the way, you know, I would envision it's those quick bites that are those, you know, like we talk about AI and maybe there's like, well, what do you think? You know, it's like, well, this is what I think. And this is, you know, so it's like, and then it goes to the next and it's very short sound bites to where I'm like, oh, I want to listen to this whole podcast. Right. And it could be like things that were said at the end, middle, beginning, but it's like, you're using that as, it's not as much, it's a preview, right? Yes. So you're giving them like, what the preview looks like versus them having to start watching it. And maybe if they would have seen that preview, they would have stayed till the end because they're like, I know he said this one thing.
Right.
I'm really interested, so I'm going to stay here. Right. So I definitely think that that's a good strategy.
I mean, even to this, that's how I get hooked into podcasts all the time. Is I'll see a short clip on YouTube or Facebook or something of Joe Rogan interviewing somebody that I'm interested, a topic I'm interested in.
Yep.
And a lot of times I've never heard of the guest.
Yep.
But I'll go listen to the whole 2.5 hour podcast just because that, 10-minute segment that was on the YouTube short was interesting enough. They're like, well, this guy, I'd be curious what he has to say. 100%. Right. And boom, there you go. You just got 2.5 hours of watch time. And
I would say even like the hot topics, right? Like what's currently happening in the business world? What's a disruption that people are currently searching for? Like, where are people talking about this, right? Sometimes planning out doesn't work because, that topic's already gone, right?
Yeah.
So
the topic can be gone. The other thing that's interesting to me, my personality, is I always like to build things that I feel like have a legacy and last.
Yeah.
Right. I think of like a political commentator. Nobody goes and listens to what Ben Shapiro said 2 years ago on his show.
Yeah, because it's all just hot.
It's gone.
Yeah.
Like nobody will ever care again about what that guy said 2 years ago. It's like this was relevant for, most political commentators, you don't even want to listen to what they said a week ago. You might, if it's somebody you love, you might listen to something they said 2 days ago. But that content expires so fast.
Unless it's Trump, then you can go back
and then just binge it.
There's just so many funny things in it.
Billions and billions and billions.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So it's definitely an interesting thing. But getting into that controversial current space is
well, and it doesn't even have to be controversial as much as like, the house prices, like for you, for instance, it's like, hey, this just got passed. We're going to talk about it with an actual like loan officer or like somebody who's an economist right now.
Yeah.
Like that would be super interesting to be like, where do you think we're going next year? And that side, because that's insight I think that people want now.
That's a good point.
Why is gold and silver going up so much? Like, how is that going to affect the interest rates? Like, I don't know.
Right.
know?
No, that's a great point. That's a great example.
Gold and silver though are crazy, right?
They are crazy. If you had bought gold 2 years ago, I think it's doubled in the last 2 years.
Wow. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Silver's over $100 and something an ounce. Crazy.
Yeah. Oh man. Pretty crazy.
Yeah.
So I got a bunch of silver dollars that my aunt had bought me when I was born. I think 22 silver dollars because I was born on September 22nd.
Oh, nice.
So
nice.
Yeah.
There you go.
Real silver.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Cool. Well, I think we're kind of getting towards the end, but I did want to kind of ask, kind of in the spirit of how we started, what's been one of the hardest things in business, just as a business owner? Like, again, because I think in a lot of ways you're living the dream, the dream that a lot of people want, right? Is like, and you started really early, but hey, I want to get out from under the grip of Hanford or the grip of my boss. I want to go out and be entrepreneurial. I want to grow a business. Now you have people working for you, right? But you're a benevolent boss, a benevolent leader of those people, right?
Yeah.
But people think about that. What's been the hard side? What are some of the things that people don't see with business ownership?
This is going to sound kind of funny, but I think the hardest thing is well, there's a couple things, but I think the hardest is setting goals or like having in your mind what something's going to look like when you hit your goals. Because I'm very driven on that side to where, I'm able to, I'm like, oh, if I could just get here, right, in my business, if I could just get here, there's always that, like, if I could just get here. And then once you get there and then realizing like, oh, like I had my blinders on. I wasn't focusing on the things around me. I was more focused on just like getting to that point. And then it's like, you're at the top of this, your own personal mountain, right? Essentially. And then it's like, now what do you have to do? You have to continuously, do more to get to the next phase. So I think from what I've realized is it's like, set your goals really high, kind of unachievable at a sense. Because, getting on those top of those mountains is not all, it's awesome, but it also is like, now what? Right. And so I think that, I'm trying to look at things in a different lens of, enjoying more of the journey. I'm still working on this on a day-to-day basis. I'm not great at it. Thinking that, this will be the next thing. And so I'm really good at like, once I have that vision of like, this is where we're going to go. I bring a lot of energy, but once I get there, I lose a lot of steam because I'm like, okay, now what? You know, it's almost like glass ceilings, right? If you've ever heard that term where it's like, you get to a place and it's like, okay, so the only way to go to the next level, I have to do X, Y, Z, right?
Right.
You have to really contemplate, like, do I want to do that? Right. And
Right.
so, yeah, I think it's more or less, you know, live in the moment of when you're a business owner, enjoy it. Don't just, you know, try to push through to get to that, you know, whether it's revenue or having X amount of employees or whatever it is. Because yeah, it's always going to be, if you're an entrepreneur, typically I would say you always need something to drive you.
Right.
And so to, you know,
it's a balance because the balance is you have to be driven.
Yeah.
So there has to be some innate dissatisfaction that drives you forward.
Correct.
But how can you live your entire life dissatisfied?
Yeah.
Right. So you don't want that.
Yeah.
You don't want to just, it's if you're always living for the thing you don't have,
Yeah.
you're just going to be miserable.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. But also you need to be pursuing something. Right.
Yeah.
So it's a matter of balancing contentment and for the journey.
Yep.
And just being grateful for what you have. And then also looking ahead to say, this is a goal and I want to get there.
Yeah. And I'll be honest. I mean, we, the toughest times, you know, obviously ups and downs through the business, right? Like having to fire employees and some of the satisfaction, I think, of what you think it's going to be like to have employees versus like what reality is. And we have an amazing team now, but I just remember, you know, just feeling kind of like, you know, when I was doing it on my own, maybe I was making more money, right? But it's like, I actually wanted to work with a team because I'm like, I want to help these people achieve what I've achieved in a way, right?
Right.
And so that was like my mindset. Like, you know, I never think of myself as like a boss, more of like somebody who just wants other people to be successful and like realize they can do it too.
Yeah.
So I'm a very like hands-off. I'm like not a micromanager when it comes to that. Like I like for my team to be able to do their own thing and then I'll help them on that side, right? As long as they're proactive and that we've kind of given more of autonomy, which I think has been awesome because now I'm looked at more as like a team member,
right.
you know, versus a boss that they're afraid of.
Right.
Is it's more of like, I want to give them as much freedom so they can make small mistakes and learn from them. And now, you know, we've grown this team to be awesome, right? And so now it's like, I'm super excited to move to the next phase because I feel like I have a good team behind me that isn't just box checkers, right? They're thinking and they're, you know, they know that I can drop the ball. So like, hey, did you take care of this? You know, they treat me like a team member versus, you know, just a boss and someone that they come to work for. So
what's the key to hiring good people? How do you do that?
I think it's impossible to, you know, tell you what the key is. I think that the number one thing is the key to making sure that you don't keep bad people on board, right? So key to hiring good employees, there's not a magic, you know, a sauce to it. I don't think, you know,
you're always rolling the dice a little bit, right?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, what I think that I've learned though is it's like we do EOS, right? And so we've set up our core values. So we live and die by the core values. People get raises, people get fired, right? And so at the end of the day, the biggest, that's our instead of Nathan having an opinion on why I should either hire or fire someone, the business has an opinion, right? Like, does this person, are they doing these things? And so we do that with our employees. Are you going above and beyond? Like, you know, go through all of our core values of team player and a positive and things that we have to have in our culture, right? And we grade them on that. And, you know, at the very beginning, the 90 days, I think even we are too lenient on, even though you're like, well, we'll just give them a little bit longer. We'll just give them a little bit longer, right? And I think that making quicker decisions on having somebody go on their own, you know, it's not, you know, not in a derogative way of like, hey, we're firing this person because they're not any good. It's like, hey, this isn't a good fit. And you're doing it a disservice by keeping them on because it's almost, you know, the outcome. Like we've gone through this. Brad and I now have, you know, had to lay off or fire multiple people, right? And it's like, it's always the same thing. It's like, anytime we've had to put them on PIP, you know, a performance improvement plan, or had these issues, it never ends good. And so it's like, why didn't we do this at that time and just say, hey, this is probably a time to break? Because all the employees that we have still right now, it's like no one's ever been on a performance improvement plan. They've always just, you know, wanted to do better and they're just the right fit. So as far as the hiring goes, I think, hiring off your core values, but firing quicker versus like holding on to someone and hoping it turns around and hoping they get better. Because I think that's where the human aspect of us comes in, is like, well, I feel bad, right? Like, well, I think they could do it. And I believe in everybody, right? Like, I believe everybody can do everything, but at the same time, it might just be something else. Yes, they can, but at the end of the day, maybe it's just not in this seat and they need to be somewhere else. So instead of hindering them, let them go. So
that's good advice. That's good advice. Well, anything else for the good of the show that you want to talk about?
No, I've enjoyed being on here, and yeah, I think that first video podcast, so that's kind of
first cool. Video podcast. I mean, you've got a face for video, man. Not radio.
Yeah, I was like, oh man, usually I don't know, I'm not in front of the camera very much, but podcasting's a little bit easier. So
yeah, this has been great. This has been fun. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah,
obviously, people can find you by just Googling Spotted Fox, right?
Absolutely.
And you'll be the first AI result and everything else.
We actually got found by a client. We're like, how'd you find us? We're like, I just typed in ChatGPT, best marketing agency.
Oh, so you don't even have to put in Spotted Fox. Just put in marketing agency and Spotted Fox will go right to the top.
Yeah.
So great. We'll bring you back on again later when we've got even more followers, and this will be a lot of fun.
Sounds good. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Nathan.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks for checking out this podcast. I really appreciate it. If you enjoyed this content, please like, comment, subscribe. As you've heard from everybody on the internet, it really helps us out as content creators. This is another free event on February 19th from 2 to 4. This one will be 2 hours, twice as long, but it'll be way more hands-on. I would encourage you to come with your laptop and your QuickBooks and maybe a spreadsheet if you can. I'm gonna give detailed examples of how you can figure out your own profit margin, and then we'll prepare a break-even analysis. The majority of small business owners I work with are looking at the complete wrong things when it comes to small business finance. I'd love to see you there.